And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Sometimes therapy could be really expensive in life. Other times therapy could be free, and this could be one of those things for me where therapy is free. Sometimes in my life I just got a lot of Pokemon thoughts and I have to get them out. It's been about a week since I made a video, and it felt like an eternity for me. Hopefully, for those of you that enjoy this channel, it felt like an eternity to you. But we're getting close to 600 videos on this channel. That's a wild number when you think about it. 600 videos, and especially when you multiply how long my videos are. Because my videos aren't usually the 5-10 minute long video. They're hour plus, 3 hours. Sometimes they're like 4 hours. Those are few and far between, but it's a lot of hours. Shout out to anybody who's watched most or all my videos. Shout out the number one mod in the game, Drew. Drew, I know you're always out there watching them. I don't know how you do it so much, bud, but I appreciate it. But yeah. So on today's video, there's a lot of topics that I haven't really touched, and that's the thing. You take a week off, and this hobby, it doesn't stop. It just keeps turning. But I am doing some stuff in the background. I've now officially, well, I'm not going to spoil it because I don't want to be the guy that like lets everybody down. But one of the things that I've been, like challenging myself, and one of my goals in my channel is I want to bring like people on who maybe a lot of people don't know. But more importantly, I want to bring on somebody that could like share information with people that will be hobby changing information. And what I mean by that hobby changing is people will quote my live. They might not, mention where the information came from, but if you could somehow into the ether that is Pokemon be able to portray information that no one knew in the past, but information that was so important to just the foundations of this hobby. Like literally what this hobby was built upon. If you could put out information like that, that is a really lofty goal. And that's always been one of my dreams is like, what if I could get that guest on? That guest that will change the way people talk about Pokemon for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. Is that something that is even possible? And I've always struggled to like, is that person even out there? And luckily, I finally was able to reach out to that person that I was trying to reach out to. And I'm reaching out to them again. They're busy this month. I'm going to touch base with them at the end of this month. And then hopefully early April, this person's going to come on. And I know I'm putting on a high pedestal. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm going to slowly hype it up. And when it definitely gets locked in and it's a confirmed thing, like for me, one of the big things that I was able to do was get Nat Turner on this channel, and that was a big deal. And by getting Nat on, there was a lot of things Nat said that other people, I wouldn't say parroted it, but they, talked about that information because it was important to trading cards, like things PSA were planning, like like the things they were rolling out, and other Pokemon channels talked about it. Sports cards channels talked about it. It was big within our little TCG world. And I'm going to be able to do that with Pokemon and be able to hopefully bring on a guest that's going to be able to share information that people will now be able to talk about for the next foreverness of this hobby. So that is something I'm really looking forward to. I don't want to spoil it too much, and I know I'm building this up, but it's going to be a big guest. And when it comes closer, I'm going to let you guys, like, I'll explain to you more who the person is. And the beautiful thing is it's not going to be somebody you guys know, but it will be somebody who knows more than anyone else. And they will be able to give out information that nobody in this hobby knows. And that's going to be wild. So, yes, I know I really like dangle that carrot out there and just like, go on. But listen, we're going to lock it up at the end of the month. We're going to get a scheduled date, and then I'll let you guys know. And it's going to be a big one. It's probably going to be the biggest, it will be the most important live historically that I'll ever have on this channel from a historic standpoint where, in my opinion, once I have that live, the second that I hit end live on that, if I never make another video on my channel ever again, it will still be a video that people will talk about for years to come. And that has been a huge goal of mine. And in a way, it might sound in a way daunting or impossible, but I think I got the person. I think I got somebody who's going to be able to give information that people watching it too will never forget. And that is such a hard thing to do. How can you bring on a guest that could imprint information onto people, well, they'll never forget what that person said. And I think I finally found that person. So that's big. Next thing I want to talk about a little bit, just get off my chest, a little ranty rant. I'm ranty tonight. There's gonna be a lot of rants. There's gonna be a lot of speed talking. When this channel first started, I was really bad at speed talking. I was really, really slow motion like this, but now not like that anymore. And that's one of the things nice about 600 videos close to on this channel is I really picked up my speed talking. But I want to talk about Pikachu and gray felt hat. Yes, I know I don't have the hat on. The hat's over there, but this is the biggest kind of laugh. It makes you chuckle a little bit, at least that internal chuckle, because I've heard a lot of the stories that came out of the most recent Collecticon. Most recent Collecticon was out of Dallas, Texas, and a lot of people were talking about one of the things that they saw there was Pikachu in a gray felt hat. And I don't think people really understood how many of these Pikachu and gray felt hats were hitting the market. And one of the things I did on not too recently of a live is I brought up the PokeBeach article that literally said that 100,000 plus of these promos were going to hit the market, and then in fact 100,000 might be an underestimate. And one of the things I don't really do is I don't usually pull up other things on my screen. Usually my lives are just this. What you're looking at right now, if you're actually looking at the screen and you don't just have it in your ear with a Bluetooth, but you're just looking at me with my background and there's nothing else. I actually brought up that article because I thought it was important. And I think for us, like, what PokeBeach is, and when you got an article that is an important one, you're going to probably read it, or maybe you'll hear about it at least. It's starting to not shock me anymore, but the amount of people in this hobby that are engaged and are buying cards and are doing, what I would consider big plays. Big plays to me isn't fancy. It could be anything that's like, or greater than $100. It doesn't have to be the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 card. It could just be the person that does a lot of transactions with cards valued at over $100. And in my opinion, that's people doing big things. The amount of people doing those transactions who were not aware that this Pikachu and gray felt hat promo was going to be hitting the market in masses is crazy. And people were talking about numbers like, oh, they saw cases of 400 of them and stuff, and the boxes have 25 but the cases have 400, and people were kind of in a way shocked by that. They're like, wow, I can't believe how many of these Pikachu and gray felt hat promos there are. And it's like, yeah, well, 400 is nothing when you have 100,000 promos, and 100,000 was an underestimate, and there's going to be potentially 200,000 and multiple waves, and then we might get multiple waves. And why is the reason I'm talking about Pikachu and a gray felt hat promo? Why am I getting a little ranty on just this? Because one of the things that I try to do on this channel is probably one of the things that I get the most pushback from people is a lot of my videos, I just try to give my opinions. And a lot of people hate the opinions. They just want the numbers. And when it comes to reprints, there's no such thing as numbers when it comes to reprints if it's speculative at that point. And one of the things I said on a lot of different videos was, I think there's going to be a lot of Pikachu and gray felt hat promos. And if I were you, I wouldn't be sitting on them. If you've watched my videos, I've pointed to that Pikachu and I've said the same line. And it might as well be on verbatim at this point. For me, that is my one Pikachu and a gray felt hat promo, and it might as well be worth 0 because it's part of my personal collection. I've already said that on multiple videos, but guess what? All my other ones, those little babies got sent away for grading. I got very lucky. I hit some 10s. Well, I hit 3 out of 3 10s. And what was the first thing I did when I got them back? I listed every single one of them at lowest price, buy it now on eBay. Sold each one of them for $385 a piece. The $385 each was actually undercutting the market. The sold prices were more in the $405, $410 range. So I underpriced it by $15 to $20 just because I wanted them to move, and I moved them all. And at the time, they started to creep back up, and then I saw some sales at $430, and it was like, did it make sense to sell them for $385? And then, as the supply hits the market, these babies are going to keep going down. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like Pikachu and gray felt hat promos, even though they're mass-produced. Listen, there is a dollar amount that even I will be buying Pikachu and gray felt hat promos, but bet your ass it's definitely not what some people are spending, $60, $70, $80. That is a dangerous territory. I talk about race to the bottom. And when I talk about race to the bottom, usually what I'm talking about is the graded play. Because graded play, there's a finite amount of time where if you get those cards back from PSA, you can put them on first to market and you can get a premium. The problem with these Pikachu and Gray Felt Hat promos is there's a lot of them. And when you could talk about people that have, quantities of, 400, 500, 1,000, people that have quantities of numbers that big, their abilities to affect markets can be huge. Real quick shout out to Son of a Mewtwo. Said, say it louder for folks in the back. Appreciate you, Son of a Mewtwo. But the people that have those huge quantities, like 1,000, which rewind, say 4 or 5 months ago, for somebody to use the words that they have 1,000 Pikachu and a Gray Felt Hat promos, that number for a lot of people might have sounded unrealistic, impossible. And then just at CollectorCon, we saw people that were dealing in quantities like that. So fast forward only a couple months later, now you're talking about people dealing in quantities of greater than 4 figures worth of cards, like in quantity. So 1,000 plus of those cards, not dollar amount, quantity. Those people can affect the market. And they can have huge effects on the market, which, huge effects, everything is, relative when you're talking about a $60, $70 sale promo, but we'll see. Now, Pokemon, they messed up with Pikachu and a Gray Felt Hat promos. They messed up because when they originally released those, the website crashed. Nobody could get the actual items. Then Pokemon had to do a press release, something that very, very rarely in this hobby's history, I could count it damn near on one hand in the last 5 years. So that's one finger per year where I could count where Pokemon puts out a statement saying they messed up. You got the big one that everyone knows about. It's the one where Pokemon pretty much said, hey, we understand there's not a lot of product. We are going to print to max capabilities. That's one. Number 2 is that weird cryptic one about celebrations from PokemonCenter.com that said, Pokemon, if you want celebrations, this is going to be your last chance. That was a weird one. And then we got the Pikachu and a Gray Felt Hat promo one, which was weird. Damn near after that, I'm missing the other 2 in the last 5 years, and I'm sure there's been 2 other press releases that give us that solid 5 things, but it's not a lot. So for them to do that if you're in this hobby, if you're deep in this hobby, when Pokemon puts out a press release, especially when they're mentioning an actual promo, it makes your eyes go from this to wide open. Bingo bango, we're talking Clockwork Orange type stuff. Your eyes are wide open because that is something different. And anybody that after that press release came out thought that it was still not going to be a lot of Pikachu and a Great Felt Hat promos, newsflash. You don't know shit about this hobby. That was a rare thing. And then we're starting to see the supply. And it takes a while. This isn't a thing, and I think that's a problem too, is everybody in this hobby, they just want that instant, just absolute instant gratification. It's the same thing with just Pokemon investing or whatever. Investing, nobody wants the, 5, 10, 15, 20% a year gains. They want the, nope, I buy a booster box today, and in a week from now, no, not even a week, I buy it at pre-release, and when it gets delivered to me in the mail, it is instantly worth 100% what I paid at pre-release. That absolute instant gratification, that instant, win. The thing about those Pikachu and a Gray Felt Hat promos, when that press release came out, it became pretty apparent to a lot of people that, looks like Pokemon's going to have to go back and print more of these, and that takes time. Nothing in this hobby when it comes to just reprints or putting stuff back out there, nothing is instant. And it took this timeline until now we're seeing it, and the Netherlands got that big restock, and then they'll potentially see another one. We're not even at the end of the supply, and people are still speculating on Pikachu and a Gray Felt Hat promos. I'm gonna shout it now, warning, 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 warning. There's still more of these things coming out. So if now is the time that you think now is a good time to make the position in those babies, it's not. Give it time. There will come a dollar amount. There will come a price. Be a beautiful entry point. Listen, my ideal, if you said, and I've mentioned this before, my ideal price point, if you're like, PK, tell me the price you would love to get Pikachu and a Gray Felt Hat promos, $20 all day. Just yum, 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 yum. I still pick up promos all the time. I gotta I just got stacks. I like cheap promos. This is the most recent promo. I got these. I got another 50 coming to me in the mail because they're sub $2. This is where I like a Mimikyu. I like Mimikyu at sub $2. I liked Gold Star Greninja when it hit $2. I liked where is it? I liked this Mewtwo when it hit $2. Guess what? Look at the price of this Mewtwo now. $2 wasn't bad. You know, how's that Mimikyu going to play out? Well, guess what? We're in the middle of the supply for this Mimikyu, which is sub $2. And then when you look at the Gold Star Greninja, you could probably go on TCG Player, pick up a loose copy, like raw beat up for like less than $1. But when you're looking at a sealed copy and you go on eBay, you'd be hard pressed to find that sealed one selling for less than $3.99. So it's like, that's 100% gain on Gold Star Greninjas. And it's not like I bought a ton of them, but you buy 100 of them for $2 a piece. You're into them for $200, and now my position's worth $400 if I want to sell them tomorrow. Honestly, the point of buying 100 Gold Star Greninjas sealed wasn't to look at them as being sealed product. Or sealed product is a stretch because it's a promo, but that wasn't the play. The play was I get 100 of them and I'm going to try to find one out of 100 that is gradable because Gold Star Greninjas are rough. The same thing with these Mimikyus. I'm going to go through the pile. I'm going to find one that's nice, and then you know, the quality of these have been pretty good, but it's 10 or bust on these. Don't want to hit 9s, and then all the rest, you know, you sub $2. I think some of them were like $1.75 a piece, and it's like, what's the worst that happens there? It goes down $1 and it's a 75-cent promo, and then what do I do at that point? I sit on 100 of them, so I'm down 100, but I've already graded the few that I did. I hit 10s, and I already sold those. It's just, anyways. But back to the Pikachu and Gray Felt Hat thing is the same thing. Is that would be my ideal price point, $20? But if I see the supply in the market hit so hard where it crashes, then I won't even be a buyer at $20. I'll wait for it being lower, but that would be my ideal price point. Now, do I think it's going to get there? Listen, it's all going to depend about supply. Not only is it going to mention supply, is we got to get the supply out of the UK. We got to get the supply out of the Netherlands, and we need another restock on Pokemon Center US. Is it possible? Maybe. Is it out of the realm of it impossible? No. I still think that we might see Van Gogh merch drop on Pokemon Center again because I think they messed up so bad. But all that might take a while to print. Listen, I could be wrong with that, and I'm fine with being wrong with that. But I'm just telling you right now, I'm not a buyer of, you know, Pikachu and Gray Felt Hat promos at $70. I know people are going to say, well, PK, you're talking all this shit, but you got one behind you. Listen, I got one for my personal collection. Let me have one. I'm still a collector, whether people think that or not. So that's another thing. But, you know, it goes back to another thing, too, which is I've heard some people talking about it. Shout out to Mr. Z, Z&G Emporium James. Speaking of cool videos, this is going to be a make or break the internet type video, but Mr. James Carson from Z&G Emporium, he is sending me some of his ink cards. Now, if you don't know the ink cards were, he had got a big collection by, he sent away a bunch of them to CGC, and they all came back as inked. So, if you don't know what inked is you get yourself one of these little markers. That's all you need. You need this marker, real fine tip. Super fine. You can just color in, you can ink in the back. You need to color code it. You got to ink it. You don't want to ink it and then have it bleed into the side of the card, because if you bleed into the side of the card, you're going to be able to see it as you examine that card, because it's inking a card isn't as simple as you got a white spot on the back of the card and you put a little bit of ink, you get rid of it, and then it disappears. So, let me see. I got to pull up my camera. But like, hold on, I got to scratch up the card. So like this is the simplest. Oh my god, I'm doing it. Not even looking at my. So like that would be inking a. Listen. if you're gonna ink a card, you don't do it on the camera, not looking at it, looking at your OBS screen while you're trying to do it. But like, actually, that was a bad ink. Hold on. Like, but like you can see the glare from where I inked it. But like that's a problem. Okay, so like, this is where ink cards get tricky, because you go like this, you can see the glare, right? Because you can see where I inked it, I didn't just do the white spots. There's a clear line where I inked it. The problem is you sell it on eBay, and this is how you list it on eBay. Didn't really do much difference, right? Like you can see the ink spot here because it hasn't dried. I really see the problem. This is a problem because I didn't ink it. I damaged the card because I scratched it with my finger. So the reason you can see the ink is because it's all groovy. It's to the touch. It's ribbed. So like that would be a bad example. You wouldn't like purposely damage a card. You would have to ink it. Like, I don't want to ink a card that isn't an energy card. But anyways, you would ink a card, and James is going to send me those cards, and we're going to crack them on screen, and we're going to see if we could be able to identify like the cards that are inked. But the problem with ink cards too is when you hold them from a distance and you take photos of them on eBay, like the average consumer doesn't know how to like identify an ink card. But then you can like look at it through this layer right here, and then especially if you go get your little jeweler's loupe out, which I don't know where my jeweler's loupe is. That was a really bad ink job because I damaged the card like because I whitened it by scraping it with my finger. But like, I need a card that is just natural. There's like a thing like with cards like natural whitening. There is a legit natural whitening of cards, and it's a different type of whitening than putting your finger in there and actually like destroying it, because now you're damaging the card. Where whitening isn't really so much damage, and if you know, you know. Like the difference between putting your finger in and actually physically damaging it. But anyways, like, and I want to crack the slabs, and I want to show you guys like how you could identify ink cards, and I think it would be a good thing, and it would be a good thing for a lot of people out there to be able to identify it and like know what to look for. And it'll be a good thing too, because another thing I hear people ask, I don't have my jeweler's loupe around here. I usually got everything in front of me, but I don't got my jeweler's loupe. Oh, I do have it right here. So everyone should get like different jeweler's loupe. This one right here is super cheap, Amazon. I don't know if you can see it, but it's an 80X. Or sorry, not 80X, 60X. And the reason why you might say like, why do you need a 60X? And a lot of people don't go this high for magnification, but the easiest way to identify a fake card is you take a 60X magnification jeweler's loupe and you hold the card just like this on the side, so you're looking at it, sideways, and you just use your jeweler's loupe and you can see the carbon layer right in it. I do not know if this will work, but it might with the camera. So, let's see. Oh, wait. It actually might work. I don't know. Will it work? Oh, wait, right? Alright, do you see that right there with the jeweler's loupe? If you can see that on my camera right now, I know we're really trying to go breaking the fourth wall here, using a jeweler's loupe with a computer camera looking at a card. But if you can see that right there, that is the carbon layer in this card. Because that carbon layer, one of the things like everyone does with Pokemon is this. They're like, oh, you want to find out if a card's real or fake? You rip it in half, and you're going to see that carbon layer. Like, that is the surefire way. When all else fails, if you want to know if your card is truly real or fake, that is end of the game. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. That is the surefire way to find out if that card is real or fake, is ripping in half. That is the worst. Whoever put that out there into the Pokemon hobby, that the rip test was a thing, while I thought it's almost like it's a meme in a way, right? Because I've heard people quote that, like, you do the rip test. You don't do the rip test. You can literally look at the card with a 60x magnification, and you can look through the side of it, and you can see that card, and you can actually see the layering of the card. Who threw the rip test out there? I mean, I guess the thought process was out there, but you can literally take this magnification, and you can just look, and you can see that carbon layer. So, I told you. I warned you. I warned you. I warned you. I warned you. Listen, the title of this video, I'm true to my word. I do not lie. Overdue PK rants. This video was going to get ranty tonight. We're ranting. We're ranty. Everybody strap in. Put your seatbelt on. Buckle up, buckaroos. It's been a week. I haven't talked about Pokemon. I got to get all this stuff out. But anyways, back to Mr. James from Z&G Emporium. The reason why I want to mention him is because he put out that freaking awesome video talking about Shill Bidden. And Shill Bidden is the not so much secret of the hobby where, and it's tough, right? Like, to identify Shill Bidden, it's tough. The only way you could, and where Shill Bidden is really tough is when you have somebody bidding on their own items with the caveat of they're the ones also listing the item. So, in a bubble, you are the person selling that card, and then you are also the person that is, bidding that card up with your other 2 eBay accounts. So in theory, it would take 3 eBay accounts in order to really shill bid a card, because you would have to be selling that card and then 2 accounts bidding against each other in order to incrementally increase that price. And then that is if you want to, like, really get the price high, show a lot of bidding action. But then there's the other type of shill bidding where you only need 2 accounts, you're the seller, and then also all you do with the other account is a lot of people will come in and they'll just put a bid in real early on an auction, and they'll put whatever their highest price is. So let's say it's a $100 card and the current bid is at $30. Somebody will come in and just gradually creep up that bid to see where that person's high bid was. Or maybe they'll creep it up a little bit to get it to a price that they feel more comfortable with. So if somebody comes in and it's a $100 card, they put a bid in at $90, and that card's only selling right now at $30, there's going to take a couple bids to get that up to $90. So that is another shill bidding techniques where you're trying to incrementally, like, figure out where the competition's bid are and then see if that person keeps bidding, stuff like this. But that is really hard for you as the viewer of the auction to identify, and eBay has really made that really hard on people, because if you go to look at the bidding activity as somebody that isn't the seller of that card, as somebody just as a bidder, you can't see the even bidder names, because it's just like one letter and then a bunch of stars and then like another letter you don't know. You could see the feedback score, and if you want to really go deep down the rabbit hole, you could, like, start to speculate, and you could start to follow people's auctions, and it would take a lot of work on you. And then even to prove that is just damn near impossible, because the person will be like, yeah, no, that's not me. That person just always bids on my items. He must be following me as a seller. Like, it's complicated. Now, James was able to defeat that because James is the seller of that card. So James is able to go in and see the bidding history. So because James can do that, he was able to, like, pull back the veil a little bit, and he showed what that person was doing. And the person that was doing it wasn't like it was some no-name person. It was one of the biggest Lugia, Neo-Gen Lugia collectors potentially in the world. I mean, my man's got a lot of them. I was looking at the photos that James just had as a thumbnail and showed all those Lugia cards. It's like, holy shit, that's a lot of fucking Lugia cards. Like, that dude was doing big things. So, but it just goes to show, like, this hobby runs deep. And listen, there will always be the people in this hobby that will be surface level. And you could say what you want, like, let people live in their bubbles and be surface level. Like, one of the critiques for certain channels, they call them drama channels, because then their whole argument is, this stuff never happens. Oh, I've been on eBay forever. Nobody ever gets scammed. Nothing happens. Blah blah blah. Because they're not living up here. They're living down. They're living in their little cushy, like, bubbles. They don't see the big picture. And this big this hobby, a lot of the stuff is a big picture. And the deeper you get in this hobby, the more and more you see, the more and more your eyes are open. But even with James's videos, showcasing Shillin', that video only will get 10,000 views. How many different buyers will buy from the ZNG, auction platform over the course of a year? I'm going to go on a limb and say it's greater than 10,000 people, and that the majority of the people doing those buys are the people doing the one-off cards, and they're not super deep down the rabbit hole. But if you want to be deep down the rabbit hole, these are things you need to be able to learn and identify. And shout out to James for putting that video out there, because it's a great learning opportunity for people, because that is such an important thing in this hobby, is to constantly be able to learn and adapt and change. And the longer you're in this hobby, the more you need to learn. And shill bidding is one of those things. This shill bidding isn't Pokemon 101. Shill bidding is Pokemon 5.0. We're talking grad level classes. That's when there's a different part to this hobby. And if this was a college class, Pokemon, just the hobby, that's your freshman level mass auditorium type class, and the person in front of the class doesn't want to be there anyways, because he doesn't want to be teaching introductory fucking Pokemon. That guy wants to be, teaching Shill bidding 5.0 to a bunch of grad level and doctorate students, because those people actually care. They actually want to be in the room, and you don't have all the fucking people that aren't there because it was just a general requirement for their major because they had to take it because it checked 2 fucking boxes. When you get deeper down the rabbit hole, shill bidding is very, 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 very much a real thing. And it happens all the time on a ton of different platforms. And not only does shill bidding... I'll give you an example of shill bidding that, people haven't really been mentioning when they got a lot of shill bidding that happens, but just the people that do fake sales. And you'll hear people do fake sales, and it's like, oh, yeah, I get it. You do fake sales because you want to show that your card is selling, because maybe you have a position in that card, and you want to show a bunch of fake sales. So when people go to comp that card, they see a bunch of your high sales. So let's say you got a card that is selling all day at $1,500. So what do? You buy that card a few times at $1,500, $600, $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. So then when people go to comp that card, they go, oh, well, that's a $1,700 card because here's a couple comps in that price range. And that is a way that people bump cards up. What people also do is you'll see a lot of fake sales where people are artificially trying to devalue that card. And we saw it happen all the time. A card that probably a lot of people are thinking. There was a lot of sales of first edition Charizards at the time. The first edition Charizard, this is going back a while ago, was selling strong for $2,500, $2,700. And we are seeing sales for a PSA 9 first edition Charizard for sub 10,000. And people were quoting that sale because the people that were quoting that sale were stupid people, didn't probably know as much about the hobby as maybe they thought they did, but you had people quoting fake sales because people will there's just so many people that will live on the surface of this hobby, and they'll just quickly go to eBay, and they'll just quickly, as quick as your little fingers can type, they're just going to go eBay, type in the name of the card, sold listings, they're going to look, that's it, that's where it ends, they wipe their hands away, and they go, I know all the comps. They will never click on that card, see who is the seller, was it a best offer? Go click on the bidding history. Look at, was it actually somebody that bid? Who was bidding? What was the feedback score of all these? And then go and then look at the next comp and go, well, who was the seller of that card? Oh, that's weird. It was the same seller. This one also was, wait, what's this? This one has the same cert number. So this card sold twice. It sold on March 6th for $1,700. But I see it on February 28th, the same card with the same cert number by the same seller sold for $1,500. That's weird. And then they go to the next one. They go, that's weird. The same card with the same cert number now sold on January 15th for $1,200. This doesn't really all add up. That's the thing. A lot of people don't do that. They go, and it's just what I told you. As quick as they could type in the name of the card. Sold listings, 1,700, 1,600, 1,500, 1,200. Nope, that's the comp. Done. As quick as they can wash their hands. Their phone or their eBay comp might as well be on fire. They don't do any other follow-up. And you find that happens a lot. This hobby's a real thing. So for James to put that video out there, I really, really enjoyed that. All right. So that's the next one. Another thing that, was kind of getting me questioning too, because I watched James's little video today. If you guys aren't subscribed to Z&J, recommend you go give him a subscribe. But he does his little car talks, and one of the things he's talking about is like the Umbreon, because if you're you want to be like a little deep but still surface levels, like Evolving Skies Umbreon PSA 10. That card is starting to like creep back up, even though it's got a huge population of graded cards. The Umbreon is the poster boy of modern Pokemon. Like, there is no card that for more people is more iconic at this point, especially when you think about modern Pokemon. There's no card that is more iconic than the Umbreon. And the Umbreon is starting to like tick back up, and it's getting close to $1,000 like consistently. That was a card that we saw sell for $1,500, and then it dipped down till eventually we saw lower sales of it in like the $700, $800, $900 range, and now it's starting to tip back up to $1,000, which that card is really, really showing how strong of a card it is. And make no mistake about it, I've talked about it. Shout out to my buddy Basic Trainer. Basic Trainer was watching the sales of Moonbreons forever because it's fascinating, because the reason why he was watching that card, the reason why I talked about that card, the reason why everyone talks about that card is because it is, in a way, an iconic card, but it shows the strength of the Pokemon market. And it's funny, as you watch the ebbs and flows of this hobby, as you watch prices go up and down, that card is, in a way, like just this indicator for Pokemon. Like, how's Pokemon doing today? You just look at the price of the Moonbreon, and the Moonbreon is like showing you how weak or strong the market is on any current day. But it got me thinking. It was like, okay, the Umbreon, I just told you, is the most iconic card of modern Pokemon, but when you think about what was the pandemic and what was the boom and what was the craziness that was 2020, well, what's the most iconic modern card? And well, it's not the Moonbreon, because the Moonbreon wasn't released yet, right? Like, the Moonbreon didn't come out of August 2021. So, okay, well, Evolving Skies didn't come out to August 2021. Well, what set came out in 2020? And during the crazy hype, well, when you think about November 2020, think about Vivid Voltage. And what was the before the Moonbreon, what was the card of modern? A lot of people would make the argument that it was the Pikachu from Vivid Voltage. The hyper rare VMAX Pikachu. Beautiful card. And I was just like, you know what? I'm curious. What are the pop reports? Because when you think about cards and you think about popularity of sets and you think about print runs, it's hard to get a finger on the pulse of what modern print runs are. It's damn near impossible. And the only way you could even get, you could get close by looking at how many of those cards are graded and then doing the speculation play of, okay, if there's, and how hard is that card to pull? Meaning, how many packs would you inherently have to open to pull that card? Is it 1 out of every 20 packs? Is it 1 out of every 100? Was it 1 out of every 500? Was it 1 out of every 1,000? Then you can kind of get a rough it's tough when you're looking at pop reports to try to figure out print runs, because a lot of cards don't get graded. But anyways, I was looking at the Pikachu Vivid Voltage VMAX, because it's like, okay, if you're going to grade any card from that era of Sword and Shield, so that era, I'm talking early Sword and Shield, you're talking Sword and Shield Base, Rebel Trash, Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage. If you got any card out of any of those sets you're going to grade, it's going to be the Pikachu. It's the poster boy for modern before Umbreon. And yeah, people are going to make the argument that it wasn't, but whatever. My argument in my little perfect world on this channel for today, that's going to be the poster boy. But I was like, what was the population of that Pikachu? Because that Pikachu's now had a little bit more time to be graded, and you got to figure if somebody has a hyper rare VMAX Pikachu from Vivid Voltage, it's probably a card that they would be sending away for grading. So I looked at pop reports, and pop reports for that card was like 11,200 of cards in total have been graded. 11,200 is a lot of cards, especially when you're talking about how tough that card is to pull. That is not an easy card to pull. 11,200 is a lot. But then I went and I looked at the Moonbrown. The Moonbrown's sitting at like 13,700 total of those cards have been graded in the PSA pop report. I'm not talking about tens. I'm just talking about total cards. So you're talking the difference of about 2,500 more Moonbryons have been graded opposed to the Pikachu. Now, this is where people are going to make the argument, well, more people are more likely to grade the Umbreon than they are to grade the Pikachu. And I don't think that's really true. I feel like if you got either one of those cards, you're grading them both. You're not saying, I'm only grading the Umbreon, I'm not grading the Pikachu. I think you grade them both. So I'm going to kind of put them in the same grading pile. Like, you're going to grade them both. Fair, close, kind of. We could, maybe you're not going to agree with me 100%, but you could at least see the reasonality. Like, if you had a, VMAX Pikachu from Vivid Voltage, you're going to grade it. If you had the Moonbreon from Evolving Skies, you're probably going to grade it. Doesn't matter. But 2,500 more Moonbryons were sent to PSA in total. And then 2,500, when you think about how tough that card is to pull, and you start to, like, multiply that, and then Evolving Skies is probably still, you know what, Evolving Skies is getting open. All these cards are just going to become less and less. I'm telling you right now, there's some cards that are becoming good buying opportunities. But there's a lot more Moonbryons that exist, we know, just by the pop report. There's probably way more Evolving Skies product that exists, but that card has been able to creep up to $1,000. It shows you how strong that card is. But then you look at a card like the VMAX Pikachu, and in a PSA 10, it sells for $200. I just told you that was the former poster boy of modern Pokemon, was that Pikachu VMAX. And it's a $200 card, opposed to the Umbreon, which is now creeping up back up to $1,000, showing the strength. And then it's like, you ask a question. It's like 11,500 total cards. Graded is a lot. How many of those are PSA 10s for the Pikachu, you might be asking? I think it was like 6,600. So it's like a, what is that, 60% chance a hidden a 10. So 60% of those cards are 10s. The Moonbryon's a little bit higher than 60%, or it's a lot higher than 60%, but it just makes you question. It's like, how blinded do people in this hobby get by just like whatever literally the biggest, flashiest, most important thing is? And you can't really make the argument. I mean, maybe you could say it's the artwork. Like, people prefer the Moonbryon artwork over the Pikachu, and I could see that, especially that the Pikachu's a rainbow. But when it comes to Pokemon, Umbreon's a fan favorite Pokemon, Pikachu's a fan favorite Pokemon, but it just kind of shows you that, like, even with huge populations, huge numbers, I'm talking 11,000 Pikachus, close to 14,000 Moonbryons, I'm still liking all these cards. It just shows you the strength of the modern market. Now, the tough part is when you're thinking about investing, it's like, well, what makes more sense? Does it make more sense for that Pikachu to go from, PSA 10 sales currently sitting right around 200, for that card to go from 200 to 400? Or does it make more sense for that Moonbryon right now to go from $1,000 to $2,000? And I think for a lot of people, they might have to actually sit back and think about that, because I don't think it's an easy question. And especially when you think about that Pikachu was selling for way, way higher than that Moonbryon ever hit. The Moonbryon never hit sales of $1,700. That Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage did hit sales of $1,700. Now it's a $200 PSA 10. But then, like, you asked me, in my personal opinion, which card do I think is more likely to double? Pikachu from 200 to 400, or Moonbryon from 1,000 to 2,000. And I think probably more likely, maybe the Pikachu. But this is a crazy thing about Pokemon. This is a crazy thing about Modern. This is a crazy thing about Moonbryon. That is not a hill I'm willing to die on. While I think that is a possibility, I think that the possibilities of the Moonbryon hitting a double to 2,000 are not that bad in comparison. Like, it's wild when you just think about the most sought after ends of this hobby, It's like, for Modern, there's nothing more sought after than the Moonbryon. It's just like the strength of the most sought after stuff is just so inherently stronger than all the other stuff surrounding it. All the other, I just told you, like, out of the first 4 sets, I gave you the most sought after card. And I told you that a couple sets later, that card could still perform better in the long run. It's wild when you think about it. And just it was more just a lot of like internal conversations I was having with myself as I was looking at that card, and all that was just because James just mentioned in a video, and then I had to do my own little rabbit hole investigation because that's what happens. Your brain starts working, and the mice is on the wheel, and the mouse is running, and then everything starts turning, and you're just like, these are questions, and there's no perfect answer to this. Like, does the Pikachu go from 200 to 400, or does the Moonbrown go from 1,000 to 2,000? You're talking two cards, huge populations of those cards graded. I'm going to say there's still still demand for both of those cards. The amount of supply hitting the market when it comes to cards being graded will slow up for both those. I don't think people are really opening Vivid Voltage that much anymore. I don't think people are opening Evolving Skies anymore. It's just good to have this conversation and the kind of like ration it out for yourself and figure out what makes sense for you. And that's Pokemon. Ta-da! Like, I mean, Pokemon isn't this crazy, wild, thing. And there's very, very few undeniable facts in this hobby, or very few undeniable things that do not change no matter what. There are certain things that sell. Good-looking cards with fan-favorite Pokemon are always going to do well. And those are two, even the Vivid Voltage, it's a rainbow, and I know people don't love rainbows. It's still a good-looking card. I don't know. It's interesting. Anyways, if you guys don't know, every Thursday night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I go live. This is my weekly live. So yeah, I go a little longer on Thursdays. Last week I had to cut it off a little early. Norovirus. I think I'm saying it right. Norovirus is like the stomach bug. Oh, if any of you guys have had that, thoughts and prayers to you. That freaking virus just went through my family like an unstoppable force. Everyone got Chuck Norris roundhouse kick to the face, and then Mr. T came out and just punched everybody in the face after the fact. It was brutal. Like, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Like, norovirus is a rough one. So, my whole family went through that. It was one of the reasons I didn't make a lot of videos this week. Dealing with me being sick, kids being sick, wife being sick. I'm always sick. Always. I can't catch a break. But anyways, now we're going to go to the top of the chat. Listen, I see a lot of familiar people in here. Pokemon Collector. I see we got Nam90 in here. The Mexican Hister. Good to see you guys. Jimmy Blake. We got John Doe. Son of a Mewtwo. Number one mod in the game, Drew. Drew's always there. Drew, you're a good one, man. I don't know how you do it, bud. Number one mod in the game, Drew. Dropping the 20 memberships. Drew, appreciate you, buddy. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. But, Son of a Mewtwo said, yeah, best mod in the game, hands down. Yeah. Let's see. Cost Bear says, a local store has Lorcana first chapter, aluminum trove boxes for $40. Would you... So 40 pounds. Aluminum trove boxes. What is that? Is that just a regular booster box? Because 40 pounds, I feel like... I just don't know. Is that like the booster? Is that the ETB? I don't know enough about Lorcana to really be able to answer that. MMK86 said, so PK is bringing Tony Robbins on the show? No, it's not Tony Robbins. Let's see. John Doe said, Pokemon Center did us dirty with the felt hat releases, and Pokemon just keep rolling out those felt hats. Yeah, people are wondering who the guest is. It's not somebody you will know, but you will be somebody you will know after the live. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be history-changing. People will talk about it forever. It'll be a good one. MMK86 says, isn't there already a lot of unsold Celebrations product out there? I don't know what that's referring to. No, we got Basic Trainer in the chat. He said, I think he's talking to somebody. Son of a Mewtwo said, we need a warning emote. Son of a Mewtwo, I got you. As soon as this live is over, I'm going to add a warning emote. Yeah. Warning. Rant incoming. Let's see. So Fargus says, I picked up a bunch of Mimikyus. Great card. People sleeping on it. There's a lot of great cards. I mean, and it all comes down the dollar amount. You know, like you pick up. I mean, these are sub $2 promos. You get them sealed. You could go on eBay, just type it in. Any promo. It doesn't have to be that card. It could just be any card that you like. It's just you type in the eBay, you sort buy it now, lowest price, first. Lowest price plus shipping first, buy it now, and you just look what are the lowest on the eBay, and then you find. I like to pick up promos like that when people are like doing mass openings because you could buy it in bulk. Like I just told you, I'm waiting on 50 of them coming in the mail. It was 50 from one seller. Like that's what I want to do. All those you just get them in bulk. So, and you find them for $1.75. Some guys tell them for $1.60, and it's just you buy them when they're cheap. You buy them when that stuff's being opened. You don't want to wait and kind of wait after the fact and then try. It's just like the Gold Star Greninjas. Like I said, you go on TCG Player, but it's going to be an opened up one. It's going to be all scratched up. It's going to go through all the TCG Player like sorting machines. It sounds terrible. Don't be blinded by that. You got to get the sealed one. So then you got to go on eBay, and then you're going to say, Gold Star Greninjas, and you're going to sort at lowest prices first, and then you're going to go look, and you're going to, okay, the lowest price is $3.99, and you click on it, and it's just, that's going to be it. It's going to be a one card listing. It's not going to be a quantity listing of 50, quantity listing of 100, because nobody's mass opening that product anymore. So you've kind of already missed your boat to get those things in mass. So then if you want to like be real late to the party for like promo plays like that, then you got to do like onesie twosie from buyers or from sellers. And that sounds terrible. But like that's the thing. Eventually, those Mimikyus, they're not going to be quantity listings of 50. Eventually, that will dry up. Single sellers won't be doing quantity listings of 50, 25, 30. But then there'll be a new promo out for some set that I don't even know exists yet because it won't be released for a year from now or 2 years from now. And as you do it, you pick up this stuff when it's cheap, and some of them are going to be wins, some of them are going to be losses. But do yourself a favor, go back, just look at like a bunch of the recent promos. Look at the stained glass birds. Look at a card that I'm still picking up. I don't even think I have any in front of me, or maybe I do. I don't have any. I mean, cheap promos. Where the hell? I got some. I don't have them near me, but Charizard V promos from Champion's Path. I've been picking up a couple sealed ones for $6. It's like, Charizard V from Champion's Path sealed promo, $6. It's like you could buy a PSA 10 for 20, so maybe that's why they're selling. But it's just like picking them up cheap, Stained Glass Birds promos when they were cheap. They're not really cheap anymore. It's pretty wild what those went up to. But I never really bought Pikachu VMAXs from Scarlet and Violet, but the Mewtwo's from Pokemon Go got so dirt cheap. The Snorlax promos got down to 60 cents. Like these promos got down to 60 cents a piece. Wild. What's the worst that can happen? These super cheap. Super cheap promos, and you could just pick them up in mass. Now, you're not going to retire off those cards. It's going to be a lot of work, but you just pick them up in bulk, and then what happens? You go through a stack, and there's only a couple that are worth to be graded, and then you just throw the rest in a 5-row box, and you forget about it. It's like you never existed until eventually you'll pull out that 5-row box, and you look at it, and all it is just... It's just rows and rows of this little plastic you're looking at. And it's thousands of promos because at that point, time continues to tick on. And I've talked about it, and I love time on this channel. And there's one person that is undefeated in the history of this hobby, and it is Father Time. And given enough time, all this stuff grows, and it doesn't grow fast. And Pokemon is not a Pokemon is not a sprint. Pokemon is the definition of a marathon. And a marathon, you cannot sprint. It's a slow, gradual run. And I've talked about this as Pokemon, but the thing about a marathon has a finish line. So even though you're running slowly and then you save it to the end until you race to that finish line and you've exhausted yourself and you got nothing left, Pokemon never has that finish line. So you just keep going, you keep going, you keep going, you keep acquiring, keep getting more and more and more and more. And and then if a big boom ever does happen, hopefully you're positioned in a spot where you can capitalize. There's so many people, and myself included, when the boom happened, I didn't have like inventory in the sense that I wanted inventory. Like I had my extras, but when I was selling through everything, I had to go through my personal collection. And my biggest problem when it came to selling stuff during the boom was just inventory, having stuff readily available, especially graded cards. you know but that's the thing, is when that potentially happens, hopefully, don't know if it will. I think there might be catalysts in the future. I think that, as crazy it is to say, and I know for a lot of people out there, this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people, this is where the view count is going to drop, but it is what it is. Pokemon is still in its infancy. It has the illusion of a mature hobby. It's not. It's in its infancy. Maybe not infancy years anymore. Maybe we finally got to like the teenage angst. That's probably like a better analogy. Maybe we finally made it out of the infancy years. So we're not just a bunch of snot-nosed kids running around, but we're definitely in the teenage angst. And if you're in the teenage angst, you still got a long life ahead of you. And the things I look at, and I don't like to make comparisons to any other hobbies, any other collectibles, but I can't not see what sports is like and seeing how sports plays out. And there's a thing about sports is like the super modern stuff sells for crazy prices, but like you look at the old stuff too, and you look at the demand, and you look at your Mickey Mantles, and you look at your Babe Ruth and stuff, and listen, there's nobody alive, there's nobody walking this earth right now that watch Babe Ruth out there, hitting dingers. There's nobody out there, but people still like Babe Ruth. Same way as people still gonna like Charizard, people still gonna like these cards. And it's like, I never saw Babe Ruth hit a 400-foot blast eating hot dogs and drinking beers and getting syphilis and whatever else Babe Ruth was doing, but I still know who Babe Ruth is. I'm not even a sports card collector. I wouldn't mind a Babe Ruth card. I think that sounds freaking awesome, but because sports cards and baseball, they're not in their teenage angst anymore. If anything, if you said, well, when was baseball cards, when was sports card, when were they in their like teenage angst years, you'd say, well, probably like late 80s, early 90s, like that definition junk wax era. And that was when baseball really like was when it's in its teenage years, and it just got destroyed and people got blasted during that timeline. But it made it out of that, and it made it into what sports cards is today. And you look at like some crazy prices that sports cards sell for. Like Pokemon has the same trajectory. Gonna not play out. Nothing's gonna play out 1-to-1, but it will play out similar. But I'm bullish in Pokemon in that sense that like we have a long, long, long road ahead of us, and I like to just be along on that road, on that ride. Just keep going, keep going, keep going slow. It's a marathon. It's a never-ending marathon. Told you, warned you. I'm ranty tonight. Overdue PK rant. The title. See, a lot of people do clickbaity titles, and this isn't a clickbait title. What you saw is what you get. It is what it is. Let's see. Ooh, Kevin Clare said PK was talking about the Rudy bathroom the other day, dropping hints. It's not Rudy. I wish it was Rudy. But that would be cool. Sorry. Let's see. John Doe said Rudy only leaves his house twice a year for a haircut. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. So Big G Collect says, yo PK, got my first submission back from PSA last week and got my second one in assembly at the moment. Needed to grade some 10s. Dude, Big G Collects, your first submission's a good one, man. I recommend you like taking one card out of the submission and kind of just putting it away so you remember it, Uh, Danny says, PK, how's your Chinese sealed boxes doing? Dude, I love me some Chinese cards. I'm not really doing Chinese boxes so much, Chinese promos right now. It's the craziest thing is, like on my PK account, one of the cards that are always sell are just Chinese cards. Super easy to grade, and they just keep churning through. And I don't know if I have any Chinese. Oh, I do have some Chinese cards in front of me, but uh, like you know, just cool fan favorite cards. Just you buy them in bulk, and you grade them a handful at a time. And I like cards the same way as I like promos, is I like cards like this. $1.99 to pick up this. Like I will. You think about this card if you were to pick up Cosmic Eclipse, like how expensive is this card in English? You're telling me I get to pick it up for $1.99, and then like you grade it in a 10. Are people gonna want one in the future? And the answer is like, yeah, probably. You know. So, Danny doing pretty good, bud, but not really so much the sealed as the raw at this point. MMK86 said PK took the red pill and went deep down the rabbit hole. I took a handful of the red pills and went head first down the rabbit hole. Yeah. Saw the Mad Hatter. We saw everybody. John Doe said $20 TikTok Korean EV Heroes is a way I'd chase a moon around. $20 for Korean EV Hero boxes? Go for it, man. I like that. You're not gonna hear me shit on that. If you could pick up EV Heroes boxes for $20, like go for it. A no brainer. I don't like to say no brainer, but that's no brainer. Oh no! Jump to the bottom. Jump to the bottom. No! Why does that happen to me? Let's see. Fuck. Jump to the bottom. Lost a bunch of the chat. Set on mute too, though. I got to the point where your super chat was. Appreciate you again, bud. So Kevin Clare said, "Welcome to the Pokemon junk wax era. Pokemon printers on burr." I did mention the junk wax error earlier, so could be on to something, but we'll see. I mean, this is the thing. Like, junk wax when it came to sports is just it's so wild when you think about it. But I think the caveat is that for sports there were so many companies. You had your, I don't know enough about sports, but like you had your Tops, you had your Upper Deck, you had Don Russ, you had I just don't know enough about sports. Leaf, Flair, all these like other companies, they were all printed at the same time. Luckily, the thing that Pokemon has going for it is it's just Pokemon. Like nobody else is printing Pokemon cards except for Pokemon. So Pokemon at least has that going for it. And the thing about sports cards, especially this, the junk wax era that happened in the 80s and 90s, there was a million different printing factories printing this. And luckily for Pokemon, they don't have a million different printing factories. Really, they only have like a handful of them. So they just don't even have the actual capabilities to print all this stuff into oblivion. That's what Pokemon's got going for it. So I don't know if it's exactly the same, but like I get the argument. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I got down to the. Oh, I must have actually got back. Oh, I did get back. I somehow like jumped above the chat where I was, and now. So the God Shade said analysis paralysis. Both cards could just stagnate for years. Yeah, look at the Hidden Fate Star. That's it. See, this is why you need people out there like the Godly Shad, because it puts you back into perspective. Hidden Fate Sard is a fantastic example, and it's one that I didn't think about it. That is a card that has stayed stagnant. So if you do want to make that argument, like you do have very, very valid arguments on why both those cards could stay stagnant when I mentioned that Pikachu VMAX earlier, when I mentioned that Moonbrown, because you can look at a card like the Hidden Fate Zard, which, again, to a lot of people out there is probably one of the more iconic modern cards that has been produced in the last couple of years. Hidden Fate's 2019, but that's still 5 years. 5 years is modern. Sorry for everybody out there that just joined the hobby and 2020, 2021, 19 or 2019 is still considered modern. But the Hidden Fates are, yeah, it it has stayed stagnant. So that is a great example. That is a very, very good point. The Godly Shad, and that's something that I probably want to dwell on more, because I think you really put out a good comment, and I really appreciate comments like that. Kevin Clare said, the Mimikyu Rainbow from Lost Thunder is ticking up again. One of my favorite cards of Modern. Especially being like the Mimikyu Full Art rookie card. Now, there were other Mimikyus that I kind of like didn't mention in the past. Like, there was a Mimikyu promo that came out before there. There was the Mimikyu from Guardians Rising that was before that. But when it comes to like full art, chase card, it was that Mimikyu full art from Lost Thunder was the first ever. And Mimikyu is just becoming this huge fan favorite Pokemon, and Mimikyu is not a new Pokemon too. And I think that's a thing a lot of people make the argument for is, oh, Pokemon's not making new Pokemons. They're not making things that people want to chase. Look at how well 151 does. There's nothing new that people want. Well, Mimikyu is a Gen 7 Pokemon. I mean, Mimikyu came out during Sun and Moon. It is a new Pokemon. It is not an old Pokemon. And look at how many plushes and cards and hype and demand. People love themselves some Mimikyu. I love myself some Mimikyu. Here you go. Here's another Chinese Mimikyu card. This is not my card. Well, this is my card, but I'm giving this the rage, and I just haven't. But Chinese card, 10. Beautiful Mimikyu artwork. You could get it from Cosmic Eclipse, or you could pick it up for $2 in Chinese. Like, $2 the raw, pick up raw, $15 to grade it. You're all into it for $17. It's a 10. It's got that little gem mint on it. People love themselves that little number, as long as it says 10 on it. You don't think you could sell that card for $40? You don't think you could sell it for $45? Maybe right person comes along for $50. Like, in person, these are beautiful cards in person. So, I got to the point where number one mod in the game, Drew, he dropped the 20 memberships. Scrolling down. Hackzack said, Astral Radiance is my underpriced set. Beautiful card. I do like Astral Radiance, but it's not up there for me. It's not even in... Man, it's going to be tough, but I don't think Astral Radiance is in my top 10 for modern sets. And that's when I include specialty sets into it. I don't think Astral Radiance cracks my top 10. That's probably blasphemy for a lot of people, but it's just, when it comes to main expansions, Brilliant Stars number 1, Evolving Skies number 2, Lost Origin, Silver Tempest, Chillin' Rain, and then when you add in specialty sets, and this isn't really in an order at this point, but Celebrations, Crown Zenith, 151. I don't know. I don't think it cracks my top 10. Maybe it does. Maybe it's like 10. I'm not a huge fan of Astral Radiance. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Fusion Strike would be above Astral Radiance. Maybe it's 10. Maybe. You make maybe it's 10. Yeah. Top 10. Just cracks my top 10. Danny said, grading and selling sub $60 cards is exhausting. Yes and no. John Doe said, Stained Glass Birds promo is the only bulk promo I bought that I loved. Yes, great card. Son of a Merc, I like this comment he put. He said, baseball is a 60-year-old lady going down the interstate in her convertible with a bottle of Ambien. Son of a Merc, that is a hell of a comment, my friend. Billy Rubik's Pokemon. Billy, good to see ya. Let's see. John Doe said, I just got a TikTok $69 151 UPC in the mail today. Been getting $25 Crown Zenith ETBs, $18 Lost Origin ETBs. It's actually crazy. $18 Lost Origin ETBs is nice. $25 Crown Zenith. Yeah. I picked up a case at 30. I don't want to misquote the number. 32.25 each. No. Yeah. $32. No. How much should I spend? 31.25. Try to figure out what it was. Like after taxes, it was like 32.50. Cause I had to pay, taxes picking up cases. But like, I'm picking up my Crown Zenith ETBs at 32, and you just told me you got it at 25. That is substantially better than I was able to get them for. So that's good, man. Like, I got to get on TikTok. I know I talk about value, I talk about price, and I'm just not on TikTok. Mainly because I'm afraid of TikTok, as bad as that is to say. Like, I just don't want China to have all my data. I listen to too much Joe Rogan. I think that's the problem. Joe Rogan has contaminated my brain with being worried about TikTok. Uh, Mod Colt said, "Oh, sorry, I meant Mimikyu Gengar Tag Team Rainbow." So are you talk? So you're talking? I don't know what you're referring to earlier, but you're talking about yeah. Uh, why am I tag team? Why the hell was I? Couldn't even think of what tag team is called. Or yeah. So funny enough is I sold one of those cards through Z&G, and I got destroyed on the grade. I think I ended up getting like an 8 on it. It was like a pretty ugly grade. Uh, so Namp90 said, opinion for Megas possibly coming back to the TCG. I'm Megas. All right. I don't hate Mega Pokemon. I never really loved XY. The artwork is cool. There's a couple Megas that I really enjoyed. I really like the Mega T-Tar. I mean, obviously all like the Mega Charizards and stuff. I mean, you think about like Flashfire and stuff. Like, there's some really cool Megas. Believe it or not, like I even like the Mega Steelix from Steam Seizures. And I know a lot of people like you don't like Megas, but you like the Steelix. Listen, there's a couple Megas that I like. I don't know how Megas would perform with modern Pokemon. Now, if they take the thought of Megas and use Mega Pokemon, but get rid of like it's very iconic at this point, the XY style of the card, and just scrap that. And then do something completely different and do like more of an alt art type of Mega feel to it. I think they would do really well. I just don't think that Pokemon can bring back the XY feel of Megas and then try to translate those into Scarlet and Violet. I just think that the hobby as a whole has changed too much, and it's just the same way as in the TCG, you have power creep. And by power creep, I mean cards just get stronger, right? Like, cards that used to be competitively viable are no longer competitively viable. In modern Pokemon, we are getting to the art creep factor. And Scarlet and Violet has really, really shown that. And what I mean by art creep factor is you look at any Scarlet and Violet set and you look at character rare subsets and the trainer galleries and the hyper rare or the secret rares and all, you just combine any Scarlet and Violet set and you just look at it from an artwork standpoint, it blows out of the water like most Sword and Shield sets, most Sun and Moon sets, just like not even close. But when you look at the popularity of those sets, when you look at like Scarlet and Violet base, when you look at they're just, even like maybe Temporal Forces will be okay, but they're missing something. And even though the artwork's there, it's just because the artwork creep, the same way as you get power creep in the TCG, you just get the artwork creep. And I feel like because artwork creep is being such a huge thing happening right now in Pokemon, that if you see like an XY reprint of Megas, that it will just really, really kill the hype of those cards. Pokemon would have to think of something out of the box and just do a more alternative art type of Mega. And then if they did that, then I think it will be fine. You know, it's the same way as Pokemon bringing back EXs. It's like, how many times are you going to bring back EXs? What are you going to be? Lowercase EX, uppercase EX, back to lowercase EX. And it's just, it is what it is. Alright. Uh, Hacksack said, PK, does Brilliant Stars stay top set without Zard? I like the set, but kind of Astral Radiance more. Well, do the cousins after the Zard. It's hard to say. You take Brilliant... I mean, Brilliance, it's tough, right? You just said, well, like, what happens if you take out the biggest chase card? I mean, no. If you took the Zard out of Brilliant Stars, it doesn't stay as the top set then. But... and that's it. That, I mean, you could ask that question about a lot of sets, right? Like if you when you take out the chase card for a lot of different sets, it they loses their luster a little bit, and then maybe it doesn't. Like if because I guess what you're saying is if you took the Moonbryon out of Evolving Skies, does Evolving Skies not become a great set? And the answer is no, because there's still the Sylveon, there's still the Glaceon, there's still, you know, Leafeon. There's still all these other, like, well, no, Sylveon is technically Fusion Strike, but when it comes to VMAX, but when you still have like the Sylveon V, you know, alt arts, and then the Glaceon V, and you know, those are the Vs I'm talking about. So even though you remove the Umbreon from Evolving Skies, it's still a strong set. So no, I mean it's a good question, Hacksack. I like you guys. You guys are like challenging my brain, and it works. All right, guys. But I appreciate you. I made it to the end of the chat. This is my weekly PK chat. If you guys don't know, every Thursday, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be going live. Do me a favor. If you are a watcher of this channel, hit the like button. It really helps me out a lot. If you're new to this channel and you just discovering this channel for the first time and you like these rants and you somehow made it to the end of an hour and 17-minute long rant of some random guy rambling about Pokemon like a maniac and you haven't hit the subscribe button, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. But other than that, guys, appreciate every single one of you. Again, special shout out to #1 mod in the game, Drew. You're the best, buddy. And as always, catch you on the next channel. Next channel? Next video. I think I had a mini stroke there. Check my pulse. Yeah, maybe I had a stroke. Catch you on the next video.